You're listening to Civic Media. You can tune into any of our live shows on any radio station across the state with the Civic Media app. Find us in your phone's app store and listen anytime, anywhere.
Good evening and welcome to another edition of the Big High School Sports Show on 98.9 WXCO, online at WXCO.FM, mobile devices and Alexa by searching WXCO, and on the Civic Media app. I'm Chad Holmes, joined by former Newman Catholic High School boys basketball coach Jeff Gress. And coming up, we're going to talk a lot of playoffs, hockey playoffs, girls basketball playoffs underway. Boys basketball brackets are out, but final week of the regular season as well, plus special guests. And this week, both our guests will be in the second hour of the show. Again, these practices, so we got to wait a little bit, but coming up at 7:06, it'll be our student athlete guest for this week. DC Everest senior Cohen Priebe will be joining us. Interesting story because he's obviously had a terrific high school career, had a big factor in the DC Everest football team making it to a state semifinal, but then got hurt in that game, missed much of the season, now trying to come back and help the Evergreens down the stretch and into the playoffs. So Cohen Priebe coming up at 7:06, and then Mosinee girls basketball coach Josh Howe at 7:25 as first year for him as the head coach at Mosinee. Mosinee having a good year and now starting their playoff run as well. So that will be coming up in the second hour of the show. And welcome back to Jeff Gress.
It's good to be back. Great time of year. This is our fun time of the year because it's just boom, boom, boom. All this playoff stuff's happening. Great games going on, and it's kind of the lifeblood of high school sports. This is it. This is a chance.
Going to talk hockey to start because, frankly, my voice is a little down again because, boy, the games in the last week. Thursday night, Wausau West and Superior, and then last night just a great game against New Richmond. And as you said, I mean, this time of year is just fantastic. And when you see those kind of games where it goes down to the nub, where teams dig and able to find a way, I mean, it brings goosebumps just thinking about it.
Yeah, I think, again, that's just the neat aspect of high school athletics because it's seniors with their career on the line. It's some of your underclassmen that they don't know it right now, but that may be their last chance to get that far. And I just think neat things happen in these competitive environments when stuff's on the line, and it's a big deal. This is why they play.
Let's talk about Division I hockey to begin with, Division I Sectional 1. And one thing that we've actually talked about, and I think it was last week and maybe in the week before, about teams that go undefeated. And, of course, we were talking about Wittenberg-Burnham in girls basketball and Stevens Point in hockey. And Stevens Point had been the number one team in the state, dominant team in the state pretty much all season long. And then they faced a Chippewa Falls team that had a losing record, a team that Stevens Point had beat 8-0 earlier in the year. And Chippewa Falls goes into the KB Willett Arena, wins 4-1. We kind of discussed this. And now that it's happened, if you were part of a program like that, how do you take it? Because obviously there was so much that was good. 24 wins in a row is just amazing. But then to lose to a team that, where frankly, it may be the biggest upset that I can think of in many years. How do you as a coach, maybe if you were put yourself in that situation, look at a year like that?
I think you probably don't discuss it with the players a lot because you want to reflect and give them their best send-off with good memories. So it's probably more of a focus on how the regular season went because there is so much good. So if you're a realist, you put it in perspective that a lot of great things happened, and this is the beauty of just sports in general is there's always the underdog and there's always the upset. Those things exist. You don't want to be the person that happens to, but it does have to happen to somebody. I think, if it was me in that situation, I would be very happy for what we had accomplished throughout the season, but that one would stick. That would bother. I'd lose some sleep at night over that. And I'm sure there's players and other coaches on that staff and part of that program that are the same way, because it's like, what could have been, what happened. You're going to analyze every little situation of what went wrong in that game, of why you didn't finish it out. I think so. I think at the end of the day, it's probably a pretty big feeling of indifferent, that very happy with what happened throughout the season, but kind of the one you let get away, and that is
at
gonna
the worst possible time.
Yeah, it's gonna what could have been. What were we? But I think for a spectator, this makes that whole bracket. It just opens it up. You got an upset that happened, and you got other teams like, hey, the door just got opened a little bit more because we're not going to have to go through them. They're gone.
And then the other part of that top half of the bracket, Thursday of last week, Eau Claire Memorial played at Hudson 5-4. That's not a huge upset, but a couple of weeks prior to that, Hudson had defeated Memorial 12-0 on the same ice. And then Memorial went there and won 3-1. So then it was Chippewa Falls and Eau Claire Memorial last night, and Eau Claire Memorial scored in the final minute of the game to win 2-1, ending the Cinderella run for Chippewa Falls. And then the bottom of the bracket, New Richmond, number 3 seed, beat DC Everest 5-1 last Thursday in the regional final. Everest scored the first goal, but then New Richmond scored 5 in a row. Wausau West last Thursday played Superior, and again, Superior is always a tough matchup, even if they have a bad record, because their record was 7-16-1, but they played in a conference with Minnesota schools and didn't win any of the games, so that hurt their record. And they are still always a very tough program, and they came and they led 1-0 over Wausau West. They led 2-1. They led 3-2 in the third period. West would tie it and then win it in overtime 4-3. Just a gutsy, gritty effort for West to stay alive. And then last night, New Richmond and West, and with that opening, you see that road, right, which Stevens point out, and then you have the number 2 seed West and the number 3 seed New Richmond, number 5 and 6 ranked teams in the state. Warriors led 1-0, but then bang, bang, bang. 3 goals for New Richmond made it 3-1 early in the second period. Warriors got back to 3-2. Then early in the third, New Richmond scores, and it's 4-2, and it's the third period. You're thinking, oh boy, tough situation. It's not easy being behind in any sport in the playoffs, because you start to maybe tense up, but West scored twice, made it 4-4. New Richmond scored 5-4. Warriors scored again, 5-5, and then in the final minute, Cooper DePoit, with 38 seconds to go, gets the game winner, 6-5. Chase Crass had a hat trick in that game for Wausau West. A night that had so much. A star player for New Richmond in the final seconds of the second period got injured. He was on the ice for, must have been 20, 25, 30 minutes. I don't know. I think the thought was he's going to be okay. He was moving into extremities. Ambulance came, took him to the hospital. Obviously, that had to be an effect on the New Richmond squad. But in the end, it was just a game that had everything. Packed house, last-minute goal, great hockey game. And again, I thought it was an epitome of what hockey is about. But for West to come from behind against Superior, come from behind against New Richmond, and now they play on Friday night, Eau Claire Memorial in Chippewa Falls, 7 o'clock. We'll have the game live right here on 98.9 WXCO, online at WXCO.FM, mobile devices, and Alexa by searching WXCO and the Civic Media app. But the thing about it is, and you've been in these situations, when you're behind in a playoff game, that's different than being behind in a regular season game. It's a much more tough situation, isn't it?
Yeah, there's a lot more urgency there, because obviously your season ends. And if you cared all about it, and all the blood, sweat, and tears and hard work that the players have put in, as well as the coaches, you don't want it to end the way you don't feel it should. So you want to have good things out of it, and for that's a tough situation to be behind when you see the seconds ticking off the clock. And so for West to stay the course, hold their ground, I think it just propels you into the next game, because those type of wins increase confidence. They increase the team aspect of how tough these guys have gutted it out together. Again, I just think it makes for great entertainment on what you get to see. Like you said, it had everything in that game it needed to have. The tough part about it is also, like, you had the pause where hopefully that player's all right. Those are the non-fun moments, right, where you worry about injuries and how people are feeling in those situations. But I think we've been behind in playoff games, and we've lost them when we've been behind, and we've come back to win them. And it's just such a special moment. The biggest, coolest thing is when you see the players' expressions when they've had something like that, and the camaraderie and the cheering and the noise of the crowd. The one big thing I can come off the top of my head with is liken it to is we were down by 13 to Columbus Catholic over at West. I don't remember what. I think it was 2014.
East, wasn't it?
Or sorry, at East. Good memory, better than mine. And it was 2014, and we come out and we put up 13 in the third period, and they don't score any, and we tie the game. And then not till the last 2 minutes of the game do we take control. And I just looked across, and it was dead silence out of their side of the gym, and our side's just roaring. And the look on our players' faces when the buzzer went off, and how excited they were, and you don't get to see the locker room part, but that is the coolest moment of these guys celebrating to get on to the next one. And then the difficult part is, after that night's done, it's back to business, and you got to refocus, and you got to get up and do it all again.
Right.
And I think West is going to propel themselves in a good position. Did they play Eau Claire Memorial?
That is a good question. They actually have played twice, and actually it's interesting because they started the year off. The first game of the year, back Thanksgiving weekend, played over in Eau Claire at the tournament they always start off with, and they played the first game against Memorial. It was an overtime game, and Memorial won that one in double overtime, 3-2. And then they played over in Wausau back in January, and the Warriors shut them out 3-0. So Wausau West pretty much was in control of the second meeting. Memorial had not been playing that great coming down the stretch, but it's a new season. You turn that page, and all of a sudden you find a way to get something going against Hudson. All of a sudden, 3-1 win, a 2-1 win. Obviously, they're very tight defensively right now. And Wausau West has played a little bit of a higher scoring games here the last couple of games. So I don't think the Warriors are worried at all that they can't shut down a team. It's just they faced a couple of teams that were able to put up some good offense. I always think about, where's the game? It's Chippewa Falls. That's much closer to Eau Claire.
Right.
It's a bit of a longer bus ride for the Warriors, but at the same time, they did play there earlier in the year and beat Chippewa Falls 5-0. So, again, it'll be a packed house. You know it. I mean, you were in a sectional final that same year. There's something about sectional final that in some ways is the biggest game of the year because it's always a packed house, and it's always where if you get to state, no matter what happens there, you still got there.
Right.
And it's sort of Tom Weinkoff for years when he would coaching at Newman, he would say, getting to state is the cake.
Yes.
And then what you do there is the icing on the cake.
Right.
And but that sectional game is always probably the most important game that you're going to play.
Yeah, it's the biggest. It's just because it's the final push. It's the one you need. For basketball, that's the fifth game that you need to get through to get down there, and usually, that was back in the day before they reseeded. So you had some tough sectional final games that they considered that could be state games. And unfortunately, the one that we had over against Green Bay New Lutheran, and after we beat Columbus that year and played Green Bay New Lutheran over in Pulaski, I think it was, just lost by 4. And you felt like you came up a little short, even though look how far you're a final 8 teams out of 128. Right. So those sectional finals just have so much meaning. There's big hype. I think teams are in it, so there's stuff's tossed out the door. Mm-hmm. They're going at each other. It's usually the team that, and this sounds cliche, just makes less mistakes.
Yeah.
You make less mistakes, you're going to pull that game out. And right from the get-go, you want to have that focus and not be chasing. So I think those are basically state games in my mind, even though they aren't hyped up to be as much. But those are the fun ones because not that you can relax, but once you've made it, you made it.
2 other of our area teams are playing for trips to state either Friday or Saturday. Division II boys hockey, Mosinee will be in action at the same time as West on Friday night. They'll be at home at Mosinee. Number 2 seed Mosinee, number 1 seed Tomahawk. Tomahawk has been the number 1 ranked team in the state in Division II. Tomahawk last night defeated Northern Pines 6-3. Mosinee beat the number 3 seed Lakeland 4-1. And looking at that game, it was interesting that Lakeland actually outshot Mosinee by a rather significant amount. It will be the 3rd meeting of the season. Tomahawk won by scores of 4-1 and 3-1. It's a similar situation as last year when Tomahawk was a 1 seed. Mosinee was a 2 seed. Sectional final played on Mosinee's home ice, and Tomahawk came out there and really dominated that game. for Mosinee, they're going to need a flawless game. I mean, it's a really good Tomahawk team. And for Mosinee to get back to state after being there a couple of years ago, they're going to have to play a really, really tight game. They do have a veteran goaltender in Aiden Karst who had a big night against Lakeland. And that, of course, is always a wild card when it comes to hockey when you get to the playoffs. And then on Saturday, the Central Wisconsin Storm will be back in action. Another sectional final taking on Hayward. A game is being played in Superior, 11 a.m. on Saturday. Again, we'll have live coverage right here on 98.9 WXCO and online as well, starting with the pregame show at 10:50 a.m. The Storm last night, after a bit of a break, they had not played since their regular season finale a week and a half ago. But last night they scored 3 goals in the second period to break open a scoreless game, went on to win 4-0. In fact, it was scoreless almost midway through the second period, and the Storm scored twice in 40 seconds to take control of that game. And their opponents, Hayward, they went to double overtime last night and won on the road at Superior 4-3. So Hayward and the Storm, like Weston Memorial, these teams have faced off twice. Met Thanksgiving weekend with the Storm winning, and then they met down in Madison at that tournament, and Hayward won in overtime the second time around. So again, it should be a good one. State tournament berths on the line, and again, we'll have Wausau West and Eau Claire Memorial on Friday, 6:50 airtime, and then the Storm and Hayward on Saturday, 10:50 a.m. Sectional finals coming up. And I guess the final note I want to make, last night, I got home after the West game, and I had to come in this morning and substitute host on our 6 a.m. show. So I had 2 shows this morning. But I saw that one of these hockey games is going to the 4th overtime, girls game. And I got to watch the end of this. It was Eau Claire area and Western Wisconsin, and it went 5 overtimes before it ended. And you talk about a heartbreak. I mean, it's one thing to lose, but to go 5 overtimes and see the game come to an end, that is a hard way to lose, but it's also a thrilling way to win.
Right, yeah. It's got both sides of the coin there. I find it interesting with the Storm and Hayward splitting and then going back to the Tomahawk Mosinee game where Tomahawk won. I don't know which situation I'd rather. The split's nice because then it's kind of anybody's game, and when you beat them twice, you get a little nervous because there can be an air of confidence, or maybe the control, and the other team's trying to get up for that. And I got to give the Mosinee athletic department good karma in continuing to schedule that section.
We want it. Like,
I would take it. Look at that. You're a number 2 seed playing in your home arena,
and I think Tomahawks got to be annoyed by it back-to-back years. But you're right. And the Hayward Storm game is interesting as well because 2 years ago, Hayward eliminated the Storm. And actually, one of our Storm guests, when Ava Rodeo was here, remember we asked about the games he remembered? He remembered the loss more against Hayward, and then last year, Storm was able to turn the tables and beat Hayward in the postseason. So they'll do it again, and it should be a good one. And again, hope you can join us Saturday morning, 11 a.m. face-off here on 98.9 WXCO. We're going to take a quick timeout and then turn our attention to the sport that Mr. Gress here, I think, has a little bit more of a feel for. Go to the boys' basketball as we got to talk about some of the final games here in the regular season. And also, at some point here, we'll touch on the brackets as well. Some interesting matchups when the playoffs get underway next week. But that'll be coming up next. Big High School Sports Show, presented by K5 Construction, a family-owned and operated custom builder in central Wisconsin that stands out from the rest for its commitment to quality and excellence. From design and planning to the final construction, K5 Construction delivers superior results on every project. Check them out online, buildwithk5.com. More to come on 98.9 WXCO. A trip to the state tournament is on the line Friday night as the Wausau West hockey team takes on Eau Claire Memorial in a sectional final. Hear all the exciting action live on 98.9 WXCO, online at WXCO.FM, mobile devices and Alexa by searching WXCO, and on the Civic Media app, starting with the pregame show at 6:50 and the opening face-off at 7 p.m. Wausau West Hockey on 98.9 WXCO is brought to you by the Cloverbelt Credit Union, Red Robin Restaurants, Sun Printing, the Wausau West Athletic Department, Coast to Coast Marketing, and the Wausau West Hockey Booster Club. It's Wausau West taking on Eau Claire Memorial in a Division I hockey sectional championship game. Friday night, starting with the pregame show at 6:50, opening face-off at 7 p.m. on 98.9 WXCO, online at WXCO.FM, mobile devices and Alexa by searching WXCO, and on the Civic Media app. And welcome back, Big High School Sports Show on 98.9 WXCO. Along with Jeff Gress, I'm Chad Holmes. And turning to hoops, boys basketball down to the final days of the regular season. And in some cases, still conference titles to be had, but in other cases, just about getting ready for next week's start of the playoffs. Wisconsin Valley Conference, you got the Marshfield Tigers, and dominant this year in terms of winning the conference. Marshfield is 11-0 in conference, 17-6 overall. Stevens Point has finished up their regular season 8-4 in the conference, 16-8 overall. Tie for third in the conference, Wausau West and DC Everest, both at 6-5. Warriors 16-7 overall. Evergreens are 12-11. Wausau East is in fifth in the conference at 5-6, 16-6 overall. Merrill 2-9 in league, 10-13 overall, and Wisconsin Rapids 1-10 in the conference, 3-20 overall. Some games of note in the past week. On Friday night, there was conference activity, 3 different games. Wausau East fell to Stevens Point. It's so interesting when you look at it. Again, I was thinking about this. You had Wausau West defeat Smash twice. You had East and West split 2. You had Everest beat West twice. You have Stevens Point beating Wausau East badly twice, and this time 81-53 at the East Gym. And you got to be a little nervous if you're looking at Stevens Point in your bracket, because you see Shadanaw with 22, McAleen with 20, Jaden Alwey with 19, Jaden Garrett at 15 for East. But again, that Stevens Point team, talent-wise, they're a little scary, aren't they?
Anytime you get like a player back at a certain point, and, you know, obviously that player is going to make the most of it because they're on borrowed time with what they have left for the season. If the team can gel right, it can give you a whole different look. And I think with Always presence out there, they're just a different team and they're deeper. And when I was looking at the brackets, and I know they hit 7 because of their record in that sectional, but that's kind of a scary 7. That's one of those teams like, you don't know where they're going to be, and they seem like they're picking it up a little bit. So I think a little bit dangerous in the way they've been put together and the way circumstances worked out, where they've had a very good player coming in the middle of the season, and it seems like things are starting to gel for them.
Marshfield played 3 games. They started off slowly on Friday, trailing Merrill 17-16 at halftime, but then they ended up winning by 20, 53-33. Balance. 4 Marshfield players between 10 and 12 points in that game. E.J. Wykes had 10 for Merrill. And then on Saturday, a game that probably determined the number 2 seed in the bracket in Division I, as Eau Claire Memorial came to Marshfield, and Marshfield just dominated. They came out and took a massive lead very quickly, went on to win 80-54. Brooks Hinson had 23. Joey Ketterer had 19. Also, Landon Lee had 18. And then on Tuesday last night, had a non-conference game on the road at Neenah, but fell by a score of 51-48. Valen Ramberg had 19. Brooks Hinson scored 13 in that game for Marshfield. When you look at Marshfield, obviously they're 11-0 in the conference. They're a team that dominated in terms of the league. But in the end, they've had some issues when it comes to non-conference games. I mean, look at Neenah. They're a number 9 seed in that bracket that Marshfield's in. And they lost to them. How do you look at it?
I was trying to get... So I listened to a little hockey, and then, you know, my attention span on hockey doesn't last, so I apologize for that. And then I tried to find my niece's game and was having problems trying to find the stream on that. Couldn't find it, and so I just tried to check out what else was on, and I saw the Marshfield Neenah game, and I watched a chunk of it, and I watched it down the wire at the end because it was back and forth for a while where Neenah was in control. I don't think Marshfield maybe took a lead in the last 5 minutes on one basket, but otherwise Neenah always had a 3-point lead, and they got up by they were still Marshfield was following them, and Neenah was up 3, and Marshfield got a shot with Hinson a little deep on the top of the key as their last shot with about 11 seconds left, tried to fire a 3 that came off the rim, and then Pohl chased it out to the corner and missed that shot, just trying to get it up before the buzzer went off. So what I saw out of that is, Marshfield still moved the ball. Their players were still hitting shots. It was back and forth a little bit, but Neenah just answered. Neenah stayed on the aggression with them. They played a 1-3-1 half-court trap and really slowed Marshfield's progress offensively. I mean, every now and then Marshfield would snap a backdoor look on them, but it showed a vulnerability that I haven't seen in Marshfield in the conference. And so those are the games that sometimes worry. I mean, it's not like it's not back up. Neenah, and we know what the Fox Valley is. That's those teams that are seated a little higher, or a little lower, I should say, in the Fox Valley are dangerous yet. But I just think those are the games you're going to have to get through as you get close. And I keep hearing this is Marshfield's year and they're a contender. And I think they're still going to have a game like this where it's going to be a tight one, and they're going to have to find a way to push through and get down to business to finish it out if they want to show up at state.
DC Everest beat Rapids Friday night, 65-45. Casey Studeman 20, Vander Truax 14, Xavier Edwards 10. Also, Wausau West played one game, and there was a non-conference game last night, beating Chippewa Falls 58-51. Karji Cooper 21 points, Brady Phelps 13, Bennett Matson 10. Rapids played a couple of non-conference games Monday and Tuesday, beating Toma 66-53, and then losing to Hortonville last night 57-53. And Hortonville, number 8 seed in that bracket, so for Rapids to go over there and play them tough, I think was a good test going into the postseason. But as you look at, say, Everest and West and Rapids and Merrill, what do you see coming down the stretch?
Everest is still. I still think they have things to put together. It seems like they're still a little up and down, and they beat Rapids by 20. We'll see how they do against East on Thursday. Still sitting at the 500 mark, but again, one player being out that's a key cog in there with Priebe's absence for a chunk of the season makes it difficult. But again, now he's a senior, and you've got guys around him, and I think they're going to be a little dangerous down the stretch. For West, we talked a little bit off air of how, again, injuries affect you, and they change the way you play a little bit, so it makes it a little tougher maybe in these last couple games with not having that lineup, but they've still done good things. So I think that'll be an interesting battle when those two meet in the playoffs. Yeah. For Merrill, they took a tough loss against Rhinelander, and then right after that they played back-to-back. They had Marshfield the next night, which again is
actually Rhinelander was Monday this week.
Oh, sorry, I got mine flipped. I do have them flipped around though, so I have it right in my notes, but okay. I wrote them down in the opposite direction. So Marshfield on Friday, Rhinelander on Monday. Those are two good basketball teams that they lost to, but they should beat out, I think, Anago in the first round of the playoffs, but then they're going to have to turn around and play a little bit tougher competition that second round. Rapids is interesting. I think they're going to take their first round playoff game. Then it gets a little challenging, but they've been a little to say the least. But for them, I think any wins down the stretch in that one against Toma is a big deal, and then at least to play competitive against Hortonville, maybe something they can build off to start. The Valley is still a great conference this year. We saw some great basketball and saw a lot of just good games. I think there's still a couple left to play in that last knock. But my point being is, it just seems like they've taken a couple hits here recently, whether they've had guys sick, whether they've had guys injured, and it's going to be all how you recover on that. So we'll see how they do in those opening rounds of the playoffs.
All the boys' final games are Thursday, so we'll talk about the brackets later. Let's talk about, for these conferences, the final night of their conference campaigns. And the Valley tomorrow night, East is at Everest. Merrill is at Wausau West, a game that we'll have right here on 98.9 WXCO. Rapids at Marshfield. Any thoughts on those games tomorrow night, wrapping up the season?
Yeah, I like the East DC Everest matchup because, again, Everest continuing just to get more time with their full lineup and honing those skills. And, again, a very dangerous team with what they have out on the floor. And I think for East, too, they've had, some sickness on their team. And for them to kind of get back, they have good things to look forward to rolling in with that number 1 seed in the playoffs. So I think that's going to be an interesting matchup of who wants to hit. You want to win your last game in the regular season because it just builds more confidence and you feel good going into that game. And for West Merrill, I think that's a big matchup too because, again, for Merrill, you want to get that last conference W that they'll have at any time being in the Valley.
Yep.
And for West, just to continue to build in the absence of the injury with Federico and
Nico Federici.
Yeah, sorry.
You put it together.
Yeah. I'm guessing on something.
No, it's all good.
But he just to I think you're always a little. That's the bad part about high school sports is these injuries, and you're always a little different and always continuing to build when you're missing a key player, and I think that's an ongoing process for every game because you step into these different matchups, and it's how bad did you need him? What do you got to do to change that? So I think even though they've been adapting without him for a while now, I think it's still an ongoing process. So I think those are all. I can't really say one game is bigger than the other because they all mean something to all those teams.
Great Northern Conference, and this is a conference that will have a conference championship determined tomorrow. You got Medford and Rhinelander at 9-2 in the conference. Medford 13-9, 17-5 for Rhinelander. Mosinee right there at 8-3 in the conference, 16-7. Pine 6-6 in the league, 13-10. Lakeland 4-7, 10-13. Antigo 3-8, 10-13. Tomahawk 0-11, 4-19. The big game Friday night was Rhinelander and Mosinee. And Rhinelander right now just seems to have that number for Mosinee. Competitive games always, but Rhinelander beat Mosinee 64-61 Friday night despite 4 Mosinee players in double figures led by Treve Stoffel with 19. Medford took care of business 80-36 on Friday, so that sets up tomorrow night a conference championship showdown. Rhinelander at Medford. Mosinee bounced back nicely last night, Monday night, beating Antigo 80-40. Antigo's not had a bad year. They've taken some steps. Carson Balgord, 22 for Mosinee. When you look at those teams, I think we touched on it a little bit last week. I think Mosinee does have that high ceiling that they can, when they're playing really well, they are a handful. But Rhinelander brings it every night, and then Medford brings it in the GNC.
Yeah, I think, and for Mosinee, a tough loss. It just seems like Rhinelander always kind of gets their number a little bit. They've had some great wars over the last couple of years, but a tough one for Mosinee because that meant hanging around at the top of that conference, and it would flip them and Rhinelander, and even making that Medford-Rhinelander game even more valuable to see where teams end up. So I think Mosinee's still going to be they've got enough key pieces there that they're going to be a tougher team in the playoffs when you see them pop through in that second round. Rhinelander-Mosinee, it just seems like Rhinelander, I don't know if it's ever pretty, but it always gets the job done. So whatever they do in these tight, close games. Now, they have to roll over into Medford, which we've talked about over the years is not an easy place to play. And they seem to be playing very well in conference, struggle a little bit out of conference, but they battled back to get to a 13-9 mark and a 9-2 overall record in that conference. And I think that's going to be an interesting one on Friday night when those two teams meet. And for the rest of the conference, I think Mosinee's going to get the win against Lakeland. And again, you got to give Antigo some props because they've almost hit that 500 mark this season, their overall record. And sometimes that's a process that people underestimate. Oh, it's so easy, but you really got to start digging into your youth levels. You got to get the kids that are currently there to make sure they're buying into the process. Is why it's important. And there's sometimes there's also a little bit of luck and other factors that are involved in all that make that program go in the right direction.
Absolutely. Merriwood Conference South, Auburndale and Stratford, 13-2 in the conference, 21-2 overall, both those teams. Marathon 11-4 in conference, 15-8 overall. Assumption 8-7 in league, 9-14 overall. Edgar 6-9, 9-14. Newman Catholic 2-13, 4-19 overall. The big game on Friday night. Actually, I should say the big game on Monday night was Stratford and Auburndale. And Stratford, they came out and they took it to Auburndale, led 34-14 at halftime, win it 56-33. Drew Brusowitz, 13, Caden Foster, 12 for Stratford. Massive win. And the one thing that jumps out is these teams are in the same bracket. Auburndale got the number 1. Stratford got the number 2, but this is kind of a statement going into the postseason, isn't it?
I was very surprised at that score. You'd think it'd be a little tighter. Stratford obviously defended their home court very well that night, and to take it to a good, very good Auburndale team, that's impressive when it's over 20. I think if it's over 10, I would be impressed.
Right.
It's it just shows that. Even both these teams, for Auburndale and Stratford, they rely heavily on their defense. Their offense isn't anything like they're not running anything real pretty. It's just they get some stuff that gets the job done for both teams, and that's efficient and consistent and effective for them. And I think that makes a little statement going into the playoffs for Stratford. And there again, we argue when some of these games hit in the schedule that they're out after the or they're out out a little bit after those seeding meetings, right? So.
And then you had Marathon. We did the game Friday night in Wisconsin Rapids where Assumption beat Marathon 44-42. JT Schlafer at 21 for the Royals. Game-winning tip at the buzzer by Trey France. And then Marathon had their hands full against Edgar at Marathon on Monday. Took 2 overtimes, and Marathon beat Edgar finally 88-81. True Thirst, 25 points, 13 boards for the Raiders. Gavin Bauer, 19 for Edgar. And also Assumption on Monday beat Newman 78-44. So, and Auburndale had beat Edgar on Friday 67-51. So let's put all that together. I mean, obviously, we saw Marathon and Assumption. It looks like Assumption, we saw them Monday as well in their win over Newman 78-44. So it looks like they're playing some pretty good ball going down the stretch, and they'll get another opportunity to add another hide to their wall at home, as they've already beat Marathon and they've already beat Auburndale, and they'll have Stratford at home coming up tomorrow night. But Marathon, would you call it a little shaky right now with those 2 games?
Well, the Assumptions, I'll say this with Marathon Assumption on Friday night. I went back there and sat there and did the game. I still don't like being in that building. It's still got that edginess of where everybody's against the team that's visiting. You just don't win out. So, but Assumption, I think, Assumption's tough because they can really live and die by how their offense is going, and from what I've seen or from how the game's being officiated, because they're very aggressive defensively and they go after it. And if it's a tight called game, they might be in a lot more foul trouble than they're supposed to be. And they let in kind of a flow, against when Assumption was rolling, keeping that lead, shots were falling. And the same thing happened when they expanded the lead on Newman. Shots were just going in, and they were getting good looks at the basket. So I think Assumption in the D5 is dangerous. With these guys are inconsistent how they play, so you don't know what you're going to get on them on a given night. Are they going to come at you and everybody hitting, everybody rolling, or are they going to be a little off where shots are going to continue to be going up even though they might not be falling? For Marathon, it was I think they're, from all these tight games they've had, that's got to help you. You don't get put through the grinder like that. So I know you didn't. We talked to Coach Jacobson after the game, and you felt bad because you want him to win, especially on his birthday. You want him to win, and they didn't pull it out, but it wasn't like Assumption didn't come at him and Assumption didn't fight hard. It was a good game. And
they've had double-digit games that go right to the nub. I mean, this is amazing this year, how many close games they've had.
I like to think that helps you. And even take it again, then they go to Edgar. And Edgar Marathon's always a war because that's a rivalry game. Both of them put up over 80 points and got the overtime things, and Marathon pulled it out. I think that's a good game to have, too, down the stretch here. So, shaky, I don't know, because sometimes you just find ways, like we talk about rivalry, just find ways to win or stay in it or stay close, and you learn something from that. I think Assumption's on the uptick. We'll see what they do against Stratford on Thursday. They play them and beat them, then they are definitely going in the right direction.
It's an exceptionally interesting final night because you got Auburndale and Stratford 13-2, and you would say neither team has an easy game because you got Stratford on the road at Assumption, who's proven to be very good on their home court. And then you got Marathon at Auburndale. And again, it's a really interesting matchup because they were put together in the same part of the bracket. They would face off in a regional final a week from Saturday if they both win Friday next week. I mean, those 2 games, you could have a tie for the championship. You could have either team win it solo.
And you could have a tie for the championship with 2 losses.
Exactly.
It's funny because I don't think either one of those games are going to be easy. Because, again, Coach Jacobson, when he talked to us, not only on the show and talked to you in the pregame, it's all about this constant improvement. And for Assumption, I know, when we've talked to people at the crowd there or other people that other radio guy, and they're like, hey, they just haven't put it all together yet. So I think you saw some markings of that when they do, and everybody, all the coaches that talk in that conference say that they're just a dangerous team. So it'll be a good night of basketball, though, to have those types of games in your final game of the conference schedule.
And then Merriwood North, Rib Lake is the champ. They're 12-3. 17-6 overall. Then Phillips and Prentice, both 8-7. Both have winning records overall. 15-8 for Phillips, 13-7 for Prentice. Athens is starting to pick it up a little bit. 6-9 in the conference, 7-16 overall. Abbotsford 2-13 in the conference, but 8-15 overall. Shawamigan 1-14 in the conference, 3-20 overall. And this is actually some interesting results. You had Rib Lake beat Prentice Friday 59-54. Prentice came back and were able to beat Phillips on Monday 56-48. You have Athens winning twice, and again, they were against maybe the couple teams below them in the conference, but still beating Chequamegon 72-51, and then Abbotsford 72-68. Obviously, it's been a really good year for Rib Lake, but Phillips and Prentice, they always battle each other. That's one of those, they're up there in the far north. I think that's kind of a rivalry game, but I thought for Prentice, that was a good win on Monday.
Oh, definitely, because it ties them for the and now they could even steal the next spot.
Yeah.
Because Prentice has to play Athens, who's playing a little better, but Phillips has the conference champion.
Yep.
And the funny thing about that Prentice Athens games is they turn around and have each other in the first round of the playoffs too. The following Tuesday.
Craziness, huh?
Yeah. But I thought the same thing. A good week for Prentice getting those wins. A little tougher for Phillips, not getting the W's on everything. And I think it's been a testament. Rib Lake is right now 17-6 and 12-3 overall in that conference, and finishing out really strong, and we'll see how they do against Phillips on Thursday night.
CWC East boys, Bondwell 13-0 will win the conference, but they will not be undefeated. They're 22-1 now. Whitburn and Iola are both 10-3 in the conference. Whitburn 16-7, Iola 17-5. Shiocton 7-6 in the conference, 13-10. Menominee Nation 5-8, 13-10. Wyowega Fremont 4-9, 8-15. Amherst having a rough year, 2-11 in the conference, 7-16 overall. Manawa 1-12 in the league, 6-17 overall. And I would guess one of the big stories is right now Wittenberg-Burnhamwood. They've lost 5 games in a row. They lost to Iola on Friday, 55-48. Then they lost a non-conference game to Shawano Monday, 72-58. Bondwell, they don't have to worry about being undefeated going into the playoffs. Right. They lost a game last Wednesday. Well, I guess they shouldn't play on Wednesdays. Right. They lost to Roncalli 70-47. But what's your take on Whitburn? Because they were 16-2, and now they're 16-7.
Yeah, it's a tough one because is that snowballing? Is it not? I mean, they're going to beat Manawa on Thursday because they should, because Manawa's down the bottom of that conference. But, they're sitting because of their overall record at the time of seeding, they're sitting at a number 2 seed. And it's just, again, we don't follow them in the air.
Right.
We don't know if there's a key player that could jostle at somebody's out because of a sickness.
Half the team could be sick. We've seen that this winter.
That stuff happens, but I still think they're a good basketball team. They've shown it. They're going to be 17-7 when the season's over.
I think a 2 seed we'll talk about later.
Yeah.
So it's still good seed.
Yeah, so they're I mean, it's, I don't know what Shawano has. The loss to Iola because it's in conference and it's by 7. You want to keep that one a little tighter.
And even right before that, they almost beat Marathon on the road. So obviously that's always a tough place to go. So it's not like they're getting railed all the time.
Well, I talked to Chuck Wolfel, one of the assistants at Marathon, and he was talking to me about just, Rochnowski could light it up and how good he was. And that's a dangerous player then on the floor. But he's not the only guy. They have a good supporting cast. He said his son, Drew, who plays on the team, was talking about how strong the Fraza kid. It's like, so they've got some key components there, and I still think if they're all healthy and ready to go and make that playoff, they're going to be a dangerous opponent for those teams they see in the first couple rounds.
CWC North, Tigerton 9-0, 21-1. North and Lutheran 7-2, 11-8. White Lake 6-3, 13-7. Bowler 3-5, 6-14. Gresham 1-7, 6-17. Marion 0-9, 3-20. Northland had a non-conference game on Monday. Fell to Pittsville 55-52. Tough one to lose because they led 26-18 at halftime. But they do have a crack at the conference champs to wrap up the regular season tomorrow night.
I think those are fun times because obviously they can't get the conference championship because they're behind 2 games, but to get that final shot, you go into it, and if you lose it, you're supposed to. Right. And if you win it, it's a great jumping ground into the playoffs where they're going to turn around and see somebody in their conference that they've already beat twice. So I think that's a nice one to end on to see where you stand a little bit.
Exactly. Coming up a little later in the show, we're going to go over the boys' basketball brackets and give you a sense on what these teams are facing when the playoffs get underway next week. But coming up next, we're going to talk about the girls. They wrapped up their regular season last week, and then some teams started their playoffs last night, and others will be starting their playoffs coming up on Friday. So we'll talk about the girls' basketball as the tournament is underway as well. Coming up in 1 minute here on the Big High School Sports Show, presented by K5 Construction on 98.9 WXCO. On Thursday night, it's the regular season finale for the Wausau West High School boys basketball team. The Warriors will play host to the Merrill Blue Jays. Hear all the exciting action live on 98.9 WXCO, online at WXCO.FM, mobile devices and Alexa by searching WXCO, and on the Civic Media app, starting with the pregame show at 7 and the opening tip at 7:15. Wausau West High School boys basketball on 98.9 WXCO is brought to you by the Cloverbelt Credit Union, Red Robin Restaurants, Sun Printing, the Wausau West Athletic Department, Coast to Coast Marketing. It's the Wausau West boys basketball team hosting Merrill in the final game of the regular season. Thursday night, starting with the pregame show at 7, opening tip at 7:15 on your home for Wausau West Sports, 98.9 WXCO, online at WXCO.FM, mobile devices and Alexa by searching WXCO, and on the Civic Media app. And welcome back, Big High School Sports Show presented by K5 Construction here on 98.9 WXCO. With Jeff Gress, I'm Chad Holmes. Girls basketball, Valley, it was Stevens Point winning the league by 2 games over Marshfield, and nobody else had a winning record in the conference. A 3-way tie at 5-6 between Rapids, West, and Everest. Merrill and had 1 win in conference, and then East in the cellar. And for Merrill and East, they actually played games last night. Wausau East saw a tough year come to an end, and obviously they had a numbers issue. Remember last year they had so many seniors, and we could see it coming. Right. And Wausau East saw their season end in a Division II game at Medford, 75-27. I actually saw a social media post from a Medford reporter, and it was a halftime post. I forget what the score was, but he says it was a scrappy East team. So, I mean, from just the language, it sounded like they came out there and they played hard right to the end. And, again, that sounds like a backhanded compliment, but I don't mean it that way because, I mean, especially for the high school kids, when you're going through a rough year, that is hard. It is really hard. It's hard to go through the hallways. It's hard to have, not have the positive reinforcement. So I give a lot of credit to those girls at East who are able to go through the season, go to Medford, which is never an easy place to play last night, and battle right to the final buzzer of the final game of the season.
Right. It's not easy to do it all, especially, just to keep getting back up every game and keep that attitude positive and try to find some silver lining in the effort that you're probably putting forth and maybe not getting the direct results in the record and on the scoreboard and how you're feeling in a game or the score disparity. So for them I take that as a compliment when they said a scrappy East team because it meant they came out and tried to play their best and do what they could do in that game to try to survive and do what they had to do.
And congratulations to the Merrill Blue Jays. And again, another team that's had a bit of a rough go of it this year. 6-18 now, but they got a big W. They went to New Richmond. That's not a short trek. I've been to New Richmond this year for the hockey game a few weeks ago. That's a long ride on a Tuesday night, and they were able to pull out a 61-58 win. So congratulations to Coach DeBoer and the Merrill Blue Jays. The reward is going to the number 1 seed Friday night, Rice Lake, but I bet you every one of those players and coaches is ready to go to Rice Lake.
Yeah, they'll be excited. I mean, it's a close one you pulled out, and the conference games were a little more challenging this year, and they scrounged out some of their non-conference schedules. So it's never an easy task to go on the road and get that playoff. It's not easy. I mean, you're already down a little bit walking in the gym, and they scrap that out, and then obviously you go again at number 1 seed. You go roll the dice. They're supposed to beat you, so you should have some pressure off you that you just get to play loose.
And DC Everest, you talk Merrill had a tight one. Everest was even tighter. They had extra time. They had to go to OT, but in the end, they were able to knock off Appleton West in overtime, 57-54. Everest now 8-14 on the year, and they now play on Friday nights against Stevens Point. And after the hockey game last week, you can't count on anything.
Our records get tossed out the door in some of these playoffs.
I mean, you can't. I mean, it sounds like a cliche when you say it's a new season, but it is a new season. And obviously Stevens Point's got great talent and Jada Seibert and all that. But for Everest, I think for these teams, it's really a good thing to get that win on a Tuesday night, isn't it?
Yeah, it starts off. It just starts off this boat, especially for Everest, who's in for the girls. It's a rebuilding season. You're starting to try to get what Coach Bullis wants intact for years to come with the girls and the tradition she wants to start establishing under her hands on the reins there. And so I think a good win overall. It was a tight one. They had to have a little extra time to do that, and I think that's good. And then I think it might even take off a little pressure if you can go into the next game and you have to you get to play another team you're familiar with at least. So and they've got the unblemished mark to the conference. So.
Unfortunately, though, the matchup is not great because Stevens Point knows how to put the ball in the hole.
Right.
And we've seen this year that for Everest, that sometimes can be an issue.
You're right. The scoring consistency. But I think for Everest, not saying they're done yet, but just they've had a better season overall, and they've really got out of it. They've dug themselves out of the cellar of that conference.
Let's talk about the other games on Friday involving Wisconsin Valley Conference schools. Some tough ones for some teams. You got Wausau West, number 13 seed, 7-16, going to number 4 seeded Hudson, who is 17-7. You got number 14 seeded Rapids, who is 10-13, going to number 3 Hortonville, who's 16-8. You have Marshfield, the number 8 seed. They're home against number 9 seeded Holman. Marshfield 13-11, 12-11 for Holman as well. So I would say the road trips for the Warriors and for the Red Raiders are tough. In Marshfield, that 8-9 game looks like pretty much a 50-50 proposition.
Yeah, those 8-9 games are always tough to call. So you're obviously much happier when you're the 8 and in your own home building. They came off a nice win against Merrill last Thursday in their last conference game, so hopefully something to build off and finish with a nice record in the conference at 9-2. For Rapids and West, just some tough seasons. They've been inconsistent. They've been up and down a little bit, which is why they're seated probably the way they are. So we'll see where they finish off within those games, and it's a little more challenging going on the road into those gyms where you're playing quite a higher seed in the 3 and 4 seed out of Hortonville and Hudson.
We only got a little more than a minute to go in this segment. We'll talk more about the girls later in the show as well. But in Division II, talking about the Great Northern Conference teams, you have Lakeland, the champ, Mosinee 2 games back. You have Lakeland, a number 2 seed. They'll take on number 7 seeded River Falls on Friday night, 7-18. So for Lakeland, probably a good matchup. Then potentially on Saturday, another matchup with Mosinee, because Mosinee 17-6 hosting 6-seeded Medford 14-11. Can't assume anything with that familiarity, but I guess Lakeland knows they're going to face a familiar foe on Saturday should they take care of business on Friday.
Right, and I think Mosinee. If it's me, I'd rather see Medford. I don't think they can beat Mosinee. Not that it's a easy game, but I would think Mosinee would be in control of that one for the playoff game.
Right.
Just the way they've played consistently throughout the year in the conference.
They swept them in the conference.
Yes, and I think Lakeland. This is the year they want to push. They want to finish out with Wilmette's senior season and in going as far as they possibly can. So I think some tough matchups there. And it's, we see it on the boys' side in the Merrillwood when Stratford, Marathon, Auburndale are always ending up in the same bracket. These are never easy games, and difficult things can arise when you see a conference foe in the next round of the playoffs.
Is there a commercial set up, Ian, that we have to get to at 58-50?
No, there's not.
Okay, so we go to 59-50.
Yep.
Okay, very good. I just want to make sure on that. Rhinelander is a number 5 seed. They take on number 4 seeded Menominee. I think right now Rhinelander just struggling without.
You're listening to Civic Media. Stay up to date on the latest news and information for your local community and Wisconsin by signing up for our free email newsletter. Visit civicmedia.us/email to get started.
And welcome back. It is hour number 2 of the Big High School Sports Show on 98.9 WXCO, online at WXCO.FM, mobile devices and Alexa by searching WXCO, and on the Civic Media app. With Jeff Grass, I'm Chad Holmes, and we got a big second hour here on tap. Both our guests coming up a little bit later on. We'll be joined by Mosinee girls basketball coach Josh Howe. And first up, it's our student athlete guest for this week from DC Everest. Very happy to welcome back to the program Cohen Priebe. And Cohen, thank you for coming by.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
I wanted to bring you on because we obviously talked before, but talk about it was a little bit of a smoother run when we last talked a year ago, and this year it's been obviously we talk about ups and downs. I imagine that really is apropos for what you've been going through between the fall, your football season, getting injured at the very worst time, right at the end of in the second half of your state semifinal, and then having to work your way back here in the winter. I guess before we get to specifics, what has the process been like emotionally? Because I imagine in your senior year, you have so much that you want to accomplish, to have to sit out and rehab in a big part of your basketball season had to be very difficult.
Yeah, especially early on in my injury, like right when it happened, I knew basketball was coming around the corner. It was pretty hard for me. Just that I had to watch the guys, sit at practice, watch a few games. But, as I started, getting off the cast, getting off the crutches, I started gaining hope that I would get back as soon as possible. And, it's kind of started resonating with me that I would be back soon. Mm-hmm. So I was definitely better a lot then than it was early on.
Well, how do you do? When I used to, our players would get hurt, blow their knee out in football season, and then maybe have hopes to make it in the last game. I mean, I feel bad. High school injuries stink. I hate them. I feel really bad for any players.
There's no red shirts.
Yeah, and you don't get it back. I mean, what do you do to make that time not only constructive for yourself but also stay engaged? It's practice is sometimes hard enough when you got to participate in it because you want to get to the game, and now you got to sit there and watch all these guys. I mean, what was the mental aspect, or what did you do for yourself to try to stay engaged in that? I gotta imagine that's difficult.
Yeah. I tried to stay, especially close with my teammates, just trying to help them out, teach them as much as I knew. That really helped me stay focused with the team and kind of try to keep them rolling while I was out, and then just trying to stay positive and just hoping I'll get back eventually. And
I gotta imagine it's as much as also a good psychiatric session where being around your buddies also helps you forget things, mellow out, that camaraderie, because that tightness is why you're there too at the same time for that team bonding.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we did team bond a lot, and it was, obviously not playing, I just got to, kind of get to know guys more on a personal level, where I would be able to relate to them. So it definitely helped when I got back to know guys more, know what they were doing, and stuff like that, yeah.
Something you said before we went on the air, because I asked you about the injury, and you said no regrets. Can you maybe talk about the idea, because you have been a really terrific basketball player for a number of years. You were part of a great run for your football team, but at the same time, I'm thinking, you don't want to miss a big chunk of your senior year, but you say, nope, I have no regrets. Can you talk a bit about your thought on that, on playing football, taking what we call a risk and being injured, and then looking back and saying, well, still no regrets? Why do you feel that way?
Yeah, so obviously basketball is my favorite sport, but football, I still just had a love for the game, and I talked to my parents this summer about playing, and I was kind of on the fence, but, they were really pushing me because, when I got older, would I be like, do I regret not playing football? And I said yes, so I decided to play, and great run. So, for any, high school kids out there, I would say never not play a sport because you're focused on another sport. It's nice to, obviously, you don't want to miss your senior season of basketball, but playing football I had some of the best times of my life playing with the guys, and I had so much fun playing football.
And looking, going into the basketball seasons, and when you shared, I got to know my teammates that much better. How about some of the things that some of your buddies bring to the court? Because obviously you got time to watch them, maybe time to even critique a little bit, help out a little bit, because you could see so much of what they have, and I think that's what's going to make you guys that dangerous team down the stretch, is because you haven't seen yourselves at full strength. Like you said, you're getting back in the flow. But some of your teammates, who do you got with you, and what do they bring to the table that you enjoy about being part of the Everest team with them?
Yeah, so senior with us, Casey Studeman, he's one of my good buddies. He brings a lot of leadership, good play down low. He's a good post, hard matchup every night. Cade Felch, Jr., he's really been stepping up this year, really stepped up when I was injured. Really good shooter, good leadership as well. Xavier Edwards, played receiver with him. He's really strong, offensively, and then defensively he's athletic. Vander Truax, sophomore, really he crashes the offensive glass hard, which is big for us because when you get an offensive rebound, it's huge. Momentum shift. Usually you get a bucket right after it. And yeah, it rounds out our sideline. Then we have Brendan Peterson, Chase Pavlovich are seniors who are both really, really nice guys, really nice teammates. They do a lot of like the junkyard dog work, you would say, play defense, dive on loose balls. So yeah.
Does a lot of those guys football and basketball players?
Yeah, Brennan and Xavier and Vander are, yeah. Okay. So a couple, yeah.
And does that, I'm assuming that only helps in so many ways to be around each other more often where it just trickles into the different seasons for you.
Yeah, I know, obviously, playing with football with them, I'm with them pretty much fall and winter, so learn a lot about them and, in their life and get closer to them.
Again, we're talking to Cohen Priebe from DC Everest, senior for the Evergreen Boys basketball team here on 98.9 WXCO. I imagine that this season is almost like trying to jump into a car that's moving because the season's going on, and then, hey, you're ready to go.
Yeah. Got
to jump into that vehicle and try to get up to speed as quickly as possible. What did you find out in the early games? Was it more difficult than maybe even you thought? Because I imagine that when you got out on the court, you felt pretty good physically, but I imagine missing that game time was kind of difficult.
Yeah, especially so during the summer, we played really well as a team. I thought our chemistry got a lot better. And then obviously coming back in the season, it was kind of weird because I was kind of just, feels like you're just kind of getting thrown back out there. So kind of, guys sort of adapt into different things in the game. And, we started getting a lot more like pick and roll stuff. And it was, I was kind of like, I was trying to like move around, but like maybe I was running into guys or, I wasn't mentally, like I haven't played the game in a while. Mm-hmm. So it's weird because you kind of just forget things kind of like, you forget where guys are going to be. And then we just had to redo our offense kind of mid-season, right, which is obviously hard, but I think we're hitting our right stride right about now, and it's perfect for playoffs.
And I got to imagine and we've talked off air about it with you coming back, like it's just, you need time to hit your stride because as hard as you try to recreate that in practice, you can't create that game experience, especially with the diversity in all these teams that you're facing. We're talking about all these teams wailing on each other at different times and bringing different things to the table. So I got to imagine that in and of itself is a little bit challenging that it just takes some time, which is why you got exciting things coming down the stretch here with, just one game left of the regular season and playoffs starting.
Yeah. Yeah. Especially cardio was the biggest thing for me. Especially, game reps. It's kind of like even practice. It's a different type of cardio. Like first couple games, I would just get really tired and trying to push through that. But I'd say now I'm getting a lot of my cardio's back. And then just the mental aspect of, trusting my foot, and knowing that if I land hard, like everything's gonna be all right. And also another thing was, kind of my leg was a lot weaker than my left one. So just, it kind of felt uneven for a little bit, but, and my right leg would get more fatigued. Like I started getting shin splints early on, and which everything's kind of going away now, but it's still a little like weaker than my other leg. So it's trying to get that back.
How do you develop that trust? I mean, for those of us who don't have to worry about going out there and trying to compete at a very high level, it says, "Oh, I got to trust it." That's easier said than done. Was there anything that you were able to do to try to help that process along?
Yeah, it is hard to do, but honestly, it just came with playing. I just tried to play as normal as I could and not try to, use my left leg more or not use my right leg as much. I mean, that's how you get injured again. It's like not using the thing. But I just keep playing and it's pretty much just trust it. Trust that it's going to be all right and the doctors are right and you're ready to play.
Let me ask you about last week because you won by 2 road games in conference by 19 and 20 points. Has something clicked for your team? I mean, just from the outside, it looks like those were 2 really nice wins. I mean, obviously Merrill and Rapids are not at the top of the conference, but still, you went on the road and controlled those games. Has something clicked with this group?
Yeah, I think we, obviously Merrill and Rapids are 2 pretty good teams. They're better than I think they get advertised, but especially on the road, winning by 20 was big for our team. I think we're starting to play a lot more in transition, which is good for us. I think it suits us really well. And I think we're just getting more confident. Like we kind of know what each other are doing. And, we've played for like 8 games now as a starting rotation. Switching things up is hard, but I think we're just hitting our stride and becoming a lot more confident playing with each other.
Just based on you guys hitting your stride, it's always different when players come in at different points in the season that are key cogs on that team, and then you got to adjust a little bit And then I think you get it rolling the right direction. If coaches, players, everybody has it all going the way it should. You think you're dangerous at that number 11? I mean, I just think they're underseeded. They're one of those teams where, because of the way things went, it makes it a little more challenging.
Yeah, I think so. I think we're ready.
I'm taking notes over here.
I know. So you're talking to the West guy.
Yeah. Else is taking notes
I got to ask. I would think so. I mean, there's other teams like that too, but I think Everest is one of them.
No.
Yeah. I think, we don't take the 11 seed really personally. I think playing against West, I mean, it's any kid's kind of dream playing at Everest or West, a playoff game. So I mean that'll be fun. But I mean to be a state champ or to get far in playoffs, you have to beat the best teams. Yeah. And for football, I think it was a great example. We were a 7 seed and we just went in and we believed in ourselves and just did what we believed we could do. And the scoreboard would tell us at the end.
It's real funny though because you had to win 3 road games. And I think I was talking to Mr. Matthews, your AD. Basically, it's blowing out the budget because you had all those long bus rides. There
was a lot. They were far too.
I know they were exactly right. Again, we're talking to Cohen Priebe of the DC Everest Evergreens. We're going to talk about your game tomorrow and the game against West in a few moments, but let's step away again. Obviously, you haven't had the free time that you may have had last year when we talked because you're trying to get ready to get back onto the court. But when you do have an opportunity to step away from it all, what is it that you like to do?
Honestly, when I was hurt, I kind of focused more on school, which my parents liked, but I didn't like as much. But I'm a pretty big sports guy, but otherwise, I like just to play video games, hang back with my friends, and just do stuff like that.
Basketball-wise, is there anybody that maybe at the pro level, or college level, it could be whatever, that you kind of look at as the kind of player that you admire or would like to be like?
Yeah, I like the game of Stephen Curry, obviously. I'm a pretty big three-point shooter, and so seeing him shoot threes and the way he moves without the ball is really, really good for, what he does. And just, he's kind of, undersized in the NBA. He's still 6'3", but just the stuff he does to get open and to create shots is just crazy.
You mentioned you focused a little bit more on school. Did you find or maybe you have in mind already, kind of a niche in what do you have a college or you plan on attending? Do you know where you want to go? Any sports afterwards? And kind of if you've decided on the direction you want to go for occupation major yet?
Yep. I'm going to play basketball at St. Norbert next year, which will be good for me. I really like the coaches. Really good program. And the school fit best for me. I want to go into the medical field. Hopefully eventually up to a pediatrician, but that's a lot of school. So, after 4 years, go into med term and then really decide what I want to do from there.
You've logged a lot of minutes of basketball, obviously. You play, and I think it's cool when you get that much varsity time and you can look back and say, I did it for 4 years. Yeah. I was up there the whole time. I think a lot of guys have dreams in whatever circumstances or don't always allow them to do that. So you got plenty of time to analyze your game. Going from your senior year here to the college level next year, what do you think is something you're going to have to further develop or add or tweak or improve on to make it adjust to that next level?
I think I was talking to some guys about, translating their game to college. One big thing this spring and summer, I have to get stronger. Just, get in the weight room a lot, building my upper body, my shoulders to be able to, muscle around guys and not get pushed around. And then just athleticism, obviously they're a lot faster, games played a lot different. And then just being able to play game reps and kind of slow down, just because college guys obviously stronger, faster. So the game's that, but then just continue to, my skill just keep sharpening every year.
Was there special contact with the coaches at St. Norbert, anybody involved with St. Norbert, when you're going through an injury? Do they get involved in any way? Do they try to give you advice? I'm just kind of curious about that because obviously they want you to come there as healthy as possible. Was there any contact, or do they kind of say, "Hey, we trust what you're doing over there at Everest"?
Yeah, they trust me, but they checked in on me. I would say twice a week they would text me about how I'm doing, what I was doing in rehab, and just making sure that I was ready to come back for season, which is what I ultimately wanted to do. So yeah.
Go ahead. No. Chad and I looked at each other.
I know.
There's a big pause on the air. No, let's go back to just that being in the time from a freshman to a senior here. How I don't know. I've got to imagine. This is just my thoughts. It's going to be a lot more challenging. You've been up there so long. It's got to be a lot more challenging to to depart on your high school career. So I guess looking at it, what do you think is been the biggest deal for you? Just it could be any high school sports, just for playing high school sports, and especially in basketball for doing it so long. What's going to be maybe the thing you miss most about it, since you've got a special experience? I think because you've logged so many minutes.
Yeah. Well, first of all, playing from senior, I mean, it's still crazy to think about that. I have 2 guaranteed games left. It went by fast. Like when I just look back at it, like I saw when I was a freshman, I saw one of my teammates in the community, and he's like 21 years old. So it's kind of crazy just to like catch up with him. It's like, dang, I'm still in high school.
Right.
But I'm just gonna miss like the atmosphere. I mean, playing in front of your classmates and people throughout the community, and like especially against West, like high energy games. I'm gonna miss playing against like any of the Valley teams. Just playing against guys I know. Like I play AAU with some of them, so just playing against people I know is definitely I'm gonna miss the most.
Real fast about like AAU in the off season. We had Griffin Lang on a few weeks ago, and it sounded like he's ready to take the next step in his life in terms of academics and that realm, and that there's a lot that's asked of young people in terms of not just the high school aspect, but the off-season aspect. How do you feel about all of that? Was it sometimes like, man, it's almost too much, or were you someone that thrived on that AAU experience? How do you look at it?
Yeah, I mean, obviously it's a lot. I mean, you go from season, you maybe get like a 3-week break, and then you go right into AAU. So it's definitely a lot of basketball because we're still practicing. You play almost every weekend. You're traveling all over, but I think AAU is really good for recruiting. You get exposed to a lot, and I think you play against a lot of different like styles of basketball. Mm-hmm. I think down south they play a lot more like fast-paced. There tends to be a lot more athletic guys, so against knowing how to play against that will ultimately help you, and just you create new friends and everything like that.
Let's talk about tomorrow, and actually we'll talk about the next 2 games because it's kind of a fun way to end the regular season and start the playoffs. You got East tomorrow night, and then you got West in the playoff game a week from Friday. What about the East game? Because it was before you came back, right? They played the first time, and it was a tight game, and East was able to pull it out, and this time it's on your court. What do you expect tomorrow night? Obviously, it's a great game to kind of launch into the postseason, isn't it?
Yeah, I'm expecting like a high-energy game. I know, Jesse just got back from mono, so, they're kind of trying to get ready to roll for playoffs, kind of basically get their stride kind of like we are. And I think it's a big one just in the fact that you want to win going into playoffs and be on the right foot. Like we don't play for another week, so we don't want to hang on a loss and, kind of be down on ourselves, be high up energy, after a good win against a good East team who's the number 1 seed. And then, just be ready for West.
Well, what about that game? Because obviously, I tell you, I don't know. I mean, I think Kate Felch had the game of his career the first time around, and then Xavier had the game of his career. I hope there's nobody else that's sort of waiting to do that. But seriously, I mean, obviously, those are 2 very competitive games, and obviously, there's going to be a lot of energy in the field house. As you said, you guys know each other.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, there's a lot to unpack there. But after you get through tomorrow night's game, how are you going to look at preparing for that game? Because, I mean, I think the emotion of a playoff game, especially as a senior, is something that you have to be aware of, correct?
Yeah. I'm just not trying to look at it as my last game, kind of think about not trying to dwell on like, dang, my career's almost over, and, be confident. And obviously West is I think they play hard. They're physical. Mm-hmm. So getting ready for that. And just preparing as much as we can, just like any game we would, not just because it's playoffs.
What kind of matchup is Griffin Lang?
I mean, I played against Griffin since my freshman year, so a really good player. He's very patient. He makes the right play. I'm looking forward to playing ball. So what I was talking about with my mom was, it's just, even if when we win, I feel bad. Like me and him we're close family friends.
Right.
So I feel bad for him that season's over, and it's just kind of like we're done playing each other. Yeah. So it's kind of just something sad, but obviously not gonna think about that during the game. But
for your team to make the run you guys want to make, obviously, and for your season to continue and last as many games as possible, what do you think you guys have to do consistently down the stretch here that'll ultimately make you the most successful on continuing the season, because it's one and done if you don't.
I think we've been playing a lot better defensively. I think playoffs is won defensively. If you can, guard up and play hard, I think that's key in winning playoffs, because sometimes you just don't hit your shots, and especially when there's like that, like Friday, there's gonna be a lot of energy. You're gonna be some people get a little nervous, and it's a big shot here and there, but I think we play best in transition. Continue to play in transition, just playing hard, winning 50-50 balls, I think will really help our team.
Real fast before our final question, do you get nervous in big situations?
I used to, not anymore though. I kind of, from playing football to basketball and playing basketball all my 4 years, it's kind of just, I don't really think about it anymore. I've had plenty of situations that I was able to grow from, and I just don't really think about it.
That's a good way to be. Yeah. And I guess our final question, and now it's a really good question, since it is your senior year, as you wrap up a long high school athletic career, what piece of advice would you give a freshman like yourself when you first came in at DC Everest, that piece of advice to take as a freshman to carry through their career?
Yeah, so I got a couple things, but one is, don't take your time for granted. Like I said earlier, it goes by it's like a blink of an eye, and by the time you're going to college, then you'll be working. So just don't take your time for granted. What we're talking about with football is don't focus on one sport. Do whatever you love. If you're play 3 sports, 2 sports, doesn't really matter, but do what you enjoy, and then just school, focus on school. School's obviously big. You get a lot of scholarships for doing good in school. And then, just work hard, and, the best will come.
I like the don't take the time for granted, because when you tell younger players that, they look like you're full of it.
Yeah,
and you're sitting there right now, it's almost gone.
Eventually,
So all good stuff. Thank you.
Cohen, Priebe, thanks again. Congrats on a wonderful career. Congrats on battling back from the injury as well. Great to see you back on the court to wrap things up.
Thank you.
We're going to take a time out, and then we're going to come back and have our second guest of the night from Mosinee High School, their head girls basketball coach, Josh Howe. That's coming up next here on 98.9 WXCO.
A look at the individual state wrestling tournament set for this weekend in Madison. I'm Travis Wilson, and this is a WisSports.net Minute brought to you by Just a Game Fieldhouse in Wisconsin Dells. More high school sports news after this. You may have heard of Just a Game Fieldhouse in Wisconsin Dells, one of the country's premier destinations for youth sports and events, but did you know that Just a Game does so much more? Just a Game also delivers end-to-end apparel, equipment, and event solutions with their state-of-the-art screen printing and embroidery facility that can help with branding for your team and business items, including uniforms, apparel, and more. Just a Game also offers digital services that include a cashless digital platform and event live streaming. Just a Game has also added a second brand new facility in Reedsburg. Find more information at justagame.com. The WIAA Individual Wrestling State Tournament will be held this weekend, with 560 boys athletes and 192 girls athletes competing in one of the crown jewels of the prep sports calendar. Taking place at the Kohl Center in Madison from Thursday through Saturday, more than 340 different programs are represented by this year's qualifiers. There are 14 defending champions in the boys' side returning this year, including a pair of wrestlers looking to join Elite Company as 4-time state champs. In D2, Danny Heiser of Evansville is the top seed in the 157-pound bracket and has 3 previous titles under his belt. Koji Campbell from Kenosha St. Joseph is looking for his 4th championship as well, seated first in the 126-pound bracket of Division III, where he is currently undefeated. Only 29 previous wrestlers have captured 4 state titles. There are 17 boys state qualifiers that are undefeated heading to Madison, along with 3 undefeated girls wrestlers. One of those girls athletes is New London senior Haley Krieger, who is 46-0 this year and looking to become the first female athlete to win 4 state titles. A reminder that this is one of the busiest weeks of the prep sports calendar, with girls basketball and regional play, gymnastics and hockey sectionals, state wrestling, plus the last week of the boys hoops regular season. This has been a WisSports.net Minute. Check us out online at WisSports.net.
And welcome back. Big High School Sports Show presented by K5 Construction on 98.9 WXCO. Online at WXCO.FM. Mobile devices and Alexa by searching WXCO and on the Civic Media app. Again, thanks to DC Everest Senior Cohen Priebe for joining us. And now our coach guest for this week from Mosinee High School, head girls basketball coach Josh Howe. And Coach, number one, thank you for making the trek a little north here to Wausau and join us tonight.
Of course. Thanks for having me.
Season number one. And it's never easy, and it can be a program that is struggling in terms of wins and losses and talent, and it can be a team that has done well. And I think Mosinee has had some really good girls basketball teams, so we come into that kind of situation, but there are always challenges. What's been the biggest challenge in your first year?
I think so. I was on the boys' staff for a little while, and just watching the girls' staff, there was a lot of turnover, a lot of stuff going on. Just coming out of COVID, just never having the stability. So the biggest goal my staff and I have had this year is just give the girls some sort of consistency. And I came in, I kind of joined. They really didn't have any coaches on staff 2 summers ago, and our athletic director came to me and was like, "Can you run our summer stuff?" And I'm like, "Okay, I guess I can. I'll give it a shot." And I just loved it right away. And I feel like what I've tried to give the girls is a little bit of consistency, consistent voice, be there every day for them, and kind of hold that expectation and get back to where our program was not too long ago. Because we've been a little bit down. We've been successful, but not necessarily at the standard that we've been in the past, like the early 2000s teams that you look at. And even the 2022 team was really, really solid. So that's probably been the biggest challenge, but I have such a great group of girls. They make it easy. It's been pretty smooth sailing this first year, and I have a great staff that anything I ask them to do, they do it. And obviously, the biggest factor in it is my wife allowing me to do it.
You're a smart man,
Good
I tell you.
props for mentioning that.
You find out pretty quickly as a coach, if you don't have a spouse that supports you at that, it gets shut down pretty quickly. So she's a big reason for that, too.
Well, in year one, Coach, you've had, you're 17-6 overall, 10-2 in the conference, which is, like you said, it's great. Good job. What has been that you would describe, either in how you play or how it's managed, the keys to your success this year so far, and good things on the men to keep coming as the season continues? Yeah,
so coming back from last year, obviously Talon was over 20 points a game, one of the best players in the state, one of the best athletes in the state, in my opinion. We needed somebody to step up and take the scoring load off of her shoulders a little bit. Like, she's incredible. She can't do it all by herself. So we needed somebody to step up, and specifically with scoring, and we just really couldn't find that second option early in the year. We had a couple girls that would play well. What never left was defense. Our defensively, our defensive expectation was always there. We were we were winning games like 45-40 at the beginning of the year, and I'm like, okay, this is great. I'm an offensive guy. I've always kind of been an offensive guy, and I'm like, we need to score some points. And then once our girls got a little bit of confidence, now all of a sudden I think our top 5 scorers all have season highs of over 20 points. So we kind of found our groove with that. Early it was a struggle because teams were just like, all right, we'll just guard Talon. And we really didn't have an answer for it. And she got frustrated with it, but we've basically, all of our starters have emerged. Our girls off the bench have emerged to be threats. And we've built that confidence up. And I'm like, no, you need to shoot that shot. Like, you need to be aggressive. If you're open, we need you to shoot the shot. And we need you to make the right play. So that's kind of been, but like I said just a minute ago, defense never left. Like, our girls, I took over a program. I have nothing to do with it, by the way. Their youth coaches taught them to play really, really hard, and that's what's never left. Defense and effort has always been top notch. I didn't have very much to do with that. I just kind of came in and I was like, oh, these girls work really hard. So I appreciate that.
Let me ask you then, though, everybody has a philosophy. When you come into a program, you want to set some, I think, building blocks, kind of build that program and try to, make sure that you have as much success, both in terms of wins, but also in terms of the experience for the girls. What would you say is the top building blocks for a program that you want to build?
So it's kind of, I think kind of the old school coaching model is, I'm going to make my players fit to my system. And I think that's kind of getting phased out a little bit. I think you need to create what's going to allow your girls to be as successful as possible we're really fast. We're really good athletes, so it would not make sense for me to be running a 2-post blocker mover like Tony Bennett, Virginia offense. Like, that just wouldn't make sense. We don't run a lot of zone because we're not very tall, but we press teams because we're fast. That might change next year, but we're going to have good athletes. And when I came into the program a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, I was like, we are fast, we are athletic, we need to use that to our advantage. So offensively, we need to attack gaps. Defensively, we need to fly around, we need to switch aggressively, jump passing lanes. So I think that's kind of been our identity, but who knows, a couple of years down the road, I could see that completely changing. I don't know that I have one philosophy that I stick to. I hope as a coach and as I grow in my coaching career, I can look at my team and say, how can we put these girls in the best position to be successful? What offense does that mean? What defense does that mean? How can we put them in the right spots at the right time?
Is it ever difficult? Because like you said, it's this. There was some success before you've been there. You kind of know what you're getting into with the kids. So it's not like one of those things where you want to break everything completely apart and build it all back up, but yet you want to have your own twist on the things that you feel are right for the team. Has it ever been a tough road to tightrope that a little bit, to leave some things in place that are really good, yet curb your own stuff the way you feel that it'll make the team the most successful?
Yeah, it's kind of unique because some of the players on our team's parents were on those early 2000s teams. So like a couple of our seniors and Bridget, our starting center, who's a sophomore, her mom was on those state teams in the early 2000s. So their presence definitely is felt. They've been so supportive of me too. Like, I've had a great group of parents, like very little like negative interactions, if any. They've been very supportive, and they kind of are buying into the fact that me and my staff are going to put their girls in the best position possible. There definitely is a standard, though. Like, losing is not really an option for a lot of sports at our school, and being at the top of the conference kind of is an expectation. Like, being in that top 2, top 3. I coach football too. It's the same thing. Like, we are expecting to be up there, and if you're not, it's okay. What do we got to do to fix that next year? And I think that's kind of where we've been on the girls' side the last 2 years. And it's nice to kind of return to, quote, like business as usual, to steal our boys program motto for the year, but it does feel good to get back to that.
And what do you said you've been on the boys side in the Great Northern, you've done it in football, now you're doing it. What have conferences, when you know them, is just a war. What do you think about the Great Northern Conference?
So I'm from a suburb, a small town outside of Milwaukee, and my longest conference game in high school for any sport was 45 minutes to Wisconsin Lutheran. So when I got here 5 years ago and I was coaching football, and I'm like, wait, our closest conference game is 50 minutes? What are you talking about? We got SPASH, we got DC Everest, but we're just that weird size. So there have been some battles for sure, either on football or the boys' side or the girls' side for basketball. The top of the conference always seems to be like right up there with the best teams in the state. And then the biggest complaint probably, or gripe, is that the bottom of the conference usually isn't super competitive, but you have small schools that are doing everything they can. But for example, like Northland Pines, when I was on the boys' staff, they had a phenomenal boys' team that we had absolute battles with. So that ebb and flow is going to happen in conferences. But yeah, on the girls' side, it's been competitive. The GNC's pumped out some good girls basketball players in recent history. I'm not totally brushed up on my GNC girls basketball history, but if you look back, there's some phenomenal athletes and players that have come out of it. So
again, we're talking to Mosinee head girls basketball coach Josh Howell here on 98.9 WXCO. You talk about maybe, within the conference, sometimes there may be a few games that are not at the level, but you really schedule good non-conference opponents. I mean, I was looking at here some of Wittenberg-Burnham went obviously 24-0 on the season. The 2 conference games, obviously, against Lakeland, the game early against St. Mary Catholic. You had a stretch in January where I imagine you learned a few things. Lakeland, Xavier, and Neillsville back-to-back-to-back. Talk about those games and talk about maybe what you learned there, because then late in the season here, just recently, you beat Rice Lake. And obviously that's a good basketball team. I think a number 1 seed as well. Obviously, maybe a few bruises, but they harden and make you a tougher team, don't they?
Absolutely. I sat down with my staff this summer and I looked at, or maybe it was last spring when we were starting to put together our schedule a little bit. And I like having a little control in the schedule so you can schedule those good teams. I'm like, guys, should we just schedule a schedule so we can win 22 games? And we just like looked at each other like, no, like we need to find the best possible teams. I don't know if we're going to beat them this year. First year of a new program, first year of a new system, new scheme. But in next year, our non-conference gets even tougher. Like the teams we've been scheduling on that, and that's exactly how we want it. I'll take a 17-6 record against really, really good teams and knock off some of those good teams over a 22-2 record or 22-3 any day of the week. So you're right; it prepares us for the better teams. That 3-game stretch in January was not fun, but we learned a lot from it.
Right.
And with the Rice Lake game, we knew we could play with these teams, but that game was so important to us because we had to beat one of those teams. Mm-hmm. So every team we've lost who's been a 1 seed or a 2 seed, but we haven't like beat like really good teams. We beat some solid teams, but we haven't beat those like top like Lakeland, like Rice Lake. So playing them and beating them was huge for our confidence, and we're playing really good basketball right now.
Let's ask about, because I got to ask about Lakeland, because obviously it's sort of a mini conference tournament you got here Friday and Saturday with Medford on Friday, and then potentially and likely whoever wins your Medford game will play Lakeland on Saturday. One of the things that really jumped out early in the year is Lakeland scores a lot of points, but you were able to keep them down, and 3-point games both times. What'd you find out in those 2 games? Obviously, you found out probably you don't like losing by 3 points, but at the same time, nobody has really battled Lakeland like that in the GNC in quite a while. Can you talk a little bit about that potential matchup? And I know as a coach, you hate to do this, but you can blame it on the radio guy. But talk a little bit about what Lakeland brings to the table and the challenge that they were this year in the regular season and potentially in the playoffs.
For sure. Christina Ouimet's one of the best players one of the best high school players, boys or girls, I've seen in a long time. Her jump shot is so lightning quick. She was at the volleyball line in one of our home games, and we had a defender on her, and she gave her an inch, and she just drilled it right in her face. And it was just like, okay, I don't know what to tell you. Good defense. So she's incredible. Obviously, Melissa has those girls playing really, really hard. They buy into their system. The story that doesn't get told that in that first Lakeland game is we were down 17 with 7 minutes left or something similar to that, and we went on like a 15-0 run with our pressure, turning them over and then converting. And we had chances to win both of those games. So we knew, and this is where I take a little bit of comfort in where we're at as a team. We played hard. We did not play well in either of those games. We were 4 for 24 from the 3-point line in the first matchup, 4 for 18 or 4 for 16 in the second matchup. So we did not shoot well. We did not play well. We played hard, but we did not play well. We played good on the defensive end. You're not going to beat that team scoring 43 and 45 points or whatever we scored. So we learned a lot about ourselves. I think we went into that first matchup. I don't think our girls necessarily believed we could beat them, right? Because it's been a long time since none of those girls on that team have beat Lakeland at the varsity level. So I don't think we believed it the first time. The second time came around, I still don't know that we 100% believed it, but then I think we found ourselves in that game up 1 with a minute left, and we're like, holy cow, like we have a chance. And I know our girls are itching to get back to that, but my message yesterday at practice was Coach Brooks, my assistant, and I were on the boys staff when we were a 1 seed and we lost to a Merrill team that we beat earlier in the year. So I'm like, we're not thinking about Lakeland at all.
Right.
We are fully focused on Medford right now. They got 2 studs, Baumgartner and Klingbeil Taylor, that have had really good years.
Medford has a lot of Baumgartners.
They do, and I coach against Logan too. So
exactly.
they're all awesome players.
Long time coming.
Yeah, but for sure, having a top tier team like that in your conference is good. For sure, it makes it competitive. 2 fun games.
Should be fun atmospheres.
Yeah.
And that you kind of led into it, your message to the team. That was going to be my question is we talked off air, not having that first, you do well enough and you don't have that first game. And now what do you do to keep these guys when they're game hungry? And you got practice after practice. It's like, okay, we can only go through the same stuff so much time and I can only do this so much. And I don't want to bring in too many people to go against you because I don't want you injured and it gets to be overly competitive. And you got all these questions. And then you turn around, like you said, and we can't look past the team we beat twice because you don't want to be the time that they get you the third time, and then you roll around and see another conference team in the next round too. What's kind of been your work in progress here throughout this week to just kind of keep them hungry? I mean, easier said than done, I'd imagine.
I'm still trying to figure it out. So it's a great question. We gave the girls off Monday. My philosophy is we earn the bye, so we're going to give them a bye. And Monday was such a nice day. I'm like, girls, go home. Like, seriously, go do something else other than basketball. We'll come back ready to go. This is unique because we play Medford. And we know Medford, like there won't be very much scout there. Like we're going to run through their plays. We're going to run through their offense and defense. We've played them twice. We've scouted them heavily already. And like you said, Lakeland being the 2 seed on our side, we know that scout pretty inside and out. So like last year we had Hayward as the 5 seed that we hosted, and then Menominee. It was a lot of game prep. Like, hey, I have no idea what Hayward runs. Let's figure it out. Let's figure out what Menominee runs. So it'll be a unique challenge tomorrow, figuring out like, okay, what should we do with practice? We got to stay sharp. We're playing good basketball, but just scrimmaging against ourselves, like at this point in the year, doesn't give us a whole lot of benefit. Bringing people in, I've had a couple alumni come in and practice with us. That's always good. I love doing that. But yeah, like I told you guys, I almost wanted a Tuesday game because we're playing so well right now, and my girls are so hungry to play basketball again. So we're looking forward to Friday for sure.
You are playing well, but what is the one thing that you still maybe in the back of your mind think, hey, we have to still take these strides forward in order to do what you'd like to do over the next couple of weeks?
Yeah, so one of the biggest things we've worked on with our guards and our posts is like we do these moves in practice. Like we've been working on finishing, like getting to the other side of the rim, step throughs, all that good stuff. And then we get in the game, and sometimes we revert back to prayers, like throwing it up. I hope it goes in.
Right.
And it's like, hey, so we break it down in film. This is a chance where you could have jump stop, shot fake, pivot, and step through. And the more like non-competitive games that we've had recently, that's in my eyes, that's a chance to work on that stuff. So that's the message during the game. Hey, you went in for a layup. I know you scored it, but could you have shot faked and got to the other side of the rim? So working on all those little skills that we've been working on, and we've invested a lot of time in our post players because neither of them were really natural posts to begin their careers. And so we're starting to see that pay off, and hopefully when we get to that big stage, it pays off even more.
And I always like to, a lot of times I don't think coaches get enough credit for what they do. I mean,
coming from a coach.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm going to say. Coming from a teacher, coach, yeah. So I don't think coaches get enough credit in what they do and the time they give and how they treat these kids like their own, because so much was looked at, well, they didn't like them, they didn't play them enough, or they said this to them in this context. It's like, no, it's just not a care and trying to get them to be the best versions of themselves. So many times I think coaches from year 1 to year 2, you not only learn a lot of yourself, but sometimes you even overanalyze it. Like, that's my first year. I didn't know enough. Now what do I got to do? What do you think you've done well this year in your first year? Because obviously it shows on what you're talking about and the proud stuff you're sharing about in the record wise and where you're standing. I think it shows that you're doing a great job that first year. Give yourself some props. What do you think you're doing well this year?
Yeah. So the
Tough
first,
question. Sorry,
no, that's okay.
Probably the hardest
appreciate
question
that.
you've received.
I think he needs to give himself some
I totally botched this analogy actually in my in one of my classes yesterday. But what's the saying? Like born on third and act like you hit a triple. That's what I don't want to do. Like trust me, if I wasn't here, these girls would be very, very successful. You look at the Jersey girls are 2 of the best athletes in the state. You look at Bridget Fry, our starting center, was our player of the year in volleyball. Britt Fitzgerald is a all-state cross country and track athlete. Like these girls would have been successful. I think what I do well as a coach, as far as philosophy, is I believe a happy, healthy athlete will outperform an overworked, beat down athlete every single day of the week. So I think we are really good at building our athletes up. You will never walk into my gym and hear anybody cussing at a player. You will never walk into our gym and see somebody just ripping somebody a new one. It's praise in public and reprimand or criticize in private. And I think we've done a good job of that. And it's so important with girls basketball too, building that confidence. And I'm still learning that. I'm not old enough to be their dads, but I have a little sister who's a junior. It's my wife's little sister, so my sister-in-law. So I do view these girls as my little sisters kind of running around, and that's how I care for them. And I feel like when you invest, and I know my staff feels the same way, I feel like when you invest that time in somebody, you can tell. You can tell when a coach cares about you. I'm not doing it for me. I love winning. I love the game of basketball, but this group of girls is very special. It's the most I've laughed that I can ever remember. And I was very nervous jumping over to the girls' side. I'm like, I don't know if I can coach girls basketball. I don't know how high school girls operate or anything. But that nervousness was quickly taken away when I realized how fun they are to be around. Now, sometimes we have a little too much fun and we need to lock it in a little bit. All right, we've had 3 straight turnovers. Can we stop giggling?
Yeah.
It's been an awesome group. They've made my job very easy. They listen extremely well, and they take criticism or constructive criticism really well too.
If you get on Friday, you get the W against Medford. What do you think you will have done well as a team then? What are the keys for you guys to win that game, basically?
Yeah, we so they throw a couple of different defenses at people. They have just Kayla Baumgartner around the rim is such a good shot blocker. I mean, we got so mad the last time because I think she probably had a dozen blocks. And our girls just kept driving in, and we just, hey, keep being aggressive, and she just sent them to the third row. So we got a shot fake around her, get her up in the air, get her in foul trouble like the first time we played. We got to limit Taylor Klingbeil. She's had an awesome year. She's averaging close to 20 a game, and I think she struggles with our athletes, as a lot of people do. So we got to make sure we're playing fast, we're playing loose. We'll run multiple bodies at them. I'm not a believer in just stick one girl on one-on-one and say, hey, go shut her down. So we have to move the basketball. We got to get back to scoring. I've never really worried about the defense because our defense always travels and our defense is always there. People ask me how much time in practice do you spend on defense? I'm like, not really, hardly any. We spend a lot of time trying to work on our offense because our defense comes natural. But we got to make sure we limit Kayla and Taylor getting to the rim and then take care of their shooters on the outside too, and make sure we rebound because we're smaller than them.
Mosinee head girls basketball coach Josh Howell. I know this regional weekend's always it's an interesting one. The back-to-backs. It's always you don't get much time to really enjoy it if you get it done on Friday. But yeah, hopefully it will be a terrific, fun weekend for you and your girls. And thanks again for coming on by.
I appreciate it. Thank you for having me.
We'll take a 1-minute break and then come right back with our final few minutes on the program. Big High School Sports Show presented by K5 Construction on 98.9 WXCO. On Saturday, the Central Wisconsin Storm girls hockey team looks to punch their ticket to the state tournament. The Storm will take on the Hayward Hurricanes in a sectional championship game. Hear all the exciting action live on 98.9 WXCO, online at WXCO.FM, mobile devices and Alexa by searching WXCO, and on the Civic Media app, starting with the pregame show at 10:50 a.m. and the opening face-off at 11 a.m. Storm Hockey on 98.9 WXCO is brought to you by the Cloverbell Credit Union, Red Robin Restaurants, Sun Printing, the Wausau West Athletic Department, Coast to Coast Marketing. It's the Central Wisconsin Storm taking on the Hayward Hurricanes in a girls hockey sectional championship game. Saturday, starting with the pregame show at 10:50, opening face-off at 11 on 98.9 WXCO, online at WXCO.FM, mobile devices and Alexa by searching WXCO, and on the Civic Media app. And welcome back. Big High School Sports Show presented by K5 Construction on 98.9 WXCO. Great guest again. Almost took the whole hour.
Yeah. And again, they just paint pictures of programs we haven't heard about, and you and I are talking about off paper or if we've seen a couple of the games in person. So great job getting to hear both Coach and Priebe share what they know about their players.
Well, the boys' basketball brackets were released this past Sunday. Let's start with the Division 5, just to start off differently. Anything got Assumption as a number 7 seed. They'll be in action Tuesday against number 10 New Lisbon. The winner plays Columbus Catholic, and I think an Assumption Columbus game in the second round would be rather interesting. And then that's in sectional number 3. In sectional number 2, number 12 seeded Newman Catholic will be at number 5 seeded Wabeno Leona, a game that we'll have here on 98.9 WXCO on Tuesday night. Northern Lutheran, a number 6 seed, will take on a CWC North opponent, Gresham. So anything jump out about those?
Well, the Newman game, I always find Newman interesting because you play in a very tough conference against, other than Assumption, Division 4 teams, and how that weighs out with other conferences and how they're playing against teams in their own conference. So I think that could be an interesting match. They got enough scoring punch to win that game on the road, in what Newman has. An Assumption, very interested to see how they do against Stratford Thursday. And then if they roll in that one or play competitive in that one, I could see some good things coming for them in the playoffs.
And Division 4 Sectional 2, Auburndale 1 seed, Stratford a 2, Marathon a 4, Phillips a 5, Edgar a 7. Bottom half of that same bracket, Bonduel 1. So a lot of really good basketball teams in that bracket.
I'd be interested to see Marathon could get Phillips again after because Phillips already beat Chequamegon twice in their conference schedule, so I think that would be kind of a fun one to watch. And then Stratford right out of the gates could have Edgar again in the first round if they beat Abbotsford, which they should because they beat them earlier in the conference. So I think that whole bracket's just a mess because all those Merriwood South teams that are Division 4 are in there and looking to wail on each other. And we've seen anything can happen over the years, despite what you've done in your previous conference schedule.
We only got about a minute to go, and we'll go deeper next week on all this stuff. But Division 1, we talked about Everest and West. I mean, what a massive matchup next Friday night. You got Marshfield, a number 2 seed, Spash, a number 7 seed. What do you think? Do you think the Valley's going to do anything in this bracket?
I hope so. I know, just generally, right, I think some of these teams are on the verge of turning the corner a little bit because they've gotten their roster set, and it sounds like they're going to just be ready for the playoffs. And a couple teams, I think there's still little questions. Are they coming back well from the injury? I think they'll make it happen. They've had a very good overall conference schedule out of all those teams. That conference has been very strong, so I'm hoping good. Being a local supporter, I'm hoping good things happen for them once the playoffs
15 seconds to go. East, a number 1 seed in Division 2. Rhinelander, number 2. Who gets through it?
I think East can do it. I think they got the key positions in the scoring punch and guys that have logged a lot of minutes. I think East is going to pull through that one.
We'll talk more about some of those potential matchups next week. We'll be back next Wednesday from 6 till 8. We'll see you then.
Sounds good. Thanks, Chet.
Big High School Sports Show on WXCO.
The national news cycle never stops, but it can be hard to find news about your local community. Civic Media is dedicated to providing quality local and state news coverage across Wisconsin. With the Civic Media app, you can get notifications about local stories that matter to you and your community. Find the free Civic Media app in your phone's app store and choose notifications from the menu to tell us what kind of news you want to hear about.